All right, everybody, how are you doing? We are back. It is January 15th, 2024. This is the fourth video. And in the previous video, basically, we discussed the idea that the other side of this physical reality is non physical. And since we are conscious beings and physical, and animals are conscious beings that are physical, and plants, even plants, are conscious to a lesser degree, that we can imply this suggests that the other side of the physical reality is consciousness. It's pure consciousness. The whole other side of the universe, of reality, physical reality, which is non physical, is in fact consciousness. Now, this is a hypothesis. So I'm not saying this can be proven. I'm not a scientist. I wouldn't know how to prove it. Maybe it could be proved with math. And I think a lot of people suggest this already. This is not something that I have necessarily invented. I may have invented a different way of seeing it, a different way of understanding it, from understanding the nature of who we are as people in this reality. But this isn't a new idea. The idea that the world is consciousness, okay, or the universe is consciousness, that matter is conscious. But the funny thing is that most people would probably say that's not true. There's no way that a physical thing is conscious. Well, and the reason why they might say that is because physical things are governed by physical laws. And so even if this remote control is conscious in some way, like the atoms, the molecules, the atoms that make this thing up, if they're conscious, well, it's still a inanimate object. It's and you might say, well, I can understand about humans and animals and even plants that maybe their consciousness. But the idea is that there's varying degrees of consciousness. And so a human is more conscious than an animal, is more conscious than a plant. And so basically, the physical world is governed by physical laws. But if we know it's conscious, maybe there are rules that things can manifest physically according to physical laws, but using the laws of that non physical side of reality, which is consciousness. Now, a lot of people refer to this, the ability to do that, as prayer or intention. You set an intention, and somehow the universe manifests things for you. And this is the law of attraction. This is one of those kind of 5 pillars or 5 ideas that I talked about in the previous videos. Now, the thing is that you can prove to yourself, you can test this hypothesis that I'm putting forward, that the other side of this reality is consciousness, it's pure consciousness, just because it's a duality, right? You can test this, and you can test that hypothesis, and I'm going to teach you how to do that in the next video. Okay? But basically, to go into this deeper, there was a psychiatrist. His name was Carl Jung. He was a protege of Sigmund Freud. And he came up with the idea of a collective unconscious. And the way he described it is that we are all a part of that collective unconscious. And how it works is, if you could imagine the sea being, or ocean, or a lake, or water, being that collective unconscious, that other side of this reality, that everything is an emanation of that sea. And we humans are like icebergs, icebergs floating in the sea. And our conscious mind, again, going back to the duality, the idea that there is a dual nature to reality, is that our minds, our consciousness, we have a dual consciousness. We have everything that is in our mind at the time, consciousness, right? We have a conscious mind, and that's to say that everything that we're conscious of. And then we have a subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind is this vast storehouse of information, which is our memories throughout our entire life, possibly even before we're born, and even the potential that we could tap into memories and knowledge which is held in this collective mind, this collective unconscious, which is really the storehouse of everything, all the information of humanity since basically the beginning of time. And so we are like icebergs. The iceberg, if you go below the surface of an iceberg, when you see an iceberg on the water, you're just seeing the tip of it. You're just seeing the top of it, the part that is exposed to the light. The rest of it is dark, which is hidden. That's a huge, vast amount of material which is held under the water, which is hidden from the light. So the idea is that we are like icebergs. The top of the iceberg, the small amount that's poking out at the top, that is your conscious mind. And the rest of it, the big part of ice, which is below the surface, is your unconscious mind, your personal unconscious, your store of memories. And it is floating within this greater sea, this collective unconscious. And that is actually how all these five things really are tied in together. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how you can test this hypothesis. The idea that the other side of this reality is consciousness, and how you can tap into that and actually manifest things in the physical reality with your mind.